6 years ago, 6 years now, Deputy Joan Collins put forward and proposed the Water in Public Ownership Bill, a bill which calls for a referendum to ensure that water services remain in public ownership. Yesterday, the Taoiseach, when asked when this referendum would be held, or even when a date for it would be announced, replied to say that the Minister was working on it and that we will get a timetable when we are ready for it. Now, water workers across the country are insistent that this referendum must be announced before the 1st of January. And the reason why they say that is that the 1st of January is the date when water services are to be transferred over from the local authorities to Irish Water, Uisce Éireann, at that date. They warn that there is a real danger that in the context of an international recession, pressure on government finances, that the government would be prepared to privatise Uisce Éireann, and that in turn would lay the basis for the return of water charges by the back door, water charges 2.0. They believe that it is in the vital interests of the people of this country that they are aware of that situation, given the hatred that exists across the country for water charges and the complete opposition to any hint of their return. Now, I would suggest that the Minister should take the demands of this country's 3,000 water workers on this issue of naming a date for a referendum before the end of the year, that should be taken seriously. From the contacts that I have had with water workers in my own Cork City and County area, and I understand from the feedback that they would have from around the country, water workers are deadly serious about this issue. They're not messing about. They are prepared to fight to achieve a referendum. And I think a smooth transfer of water services from the local authorities to Irish Water is ruled out on the 1st of January, unless those assurances have been put in place. I think that the water workers are right to warn of the dangers of outright privatisation, but there is also, of course, the possibility and the threat, real possibility, of a slow privatisation process taking place. Let's call it a creeping privatisation, if you will. And that even with a successful referendum, that a state-owned utility can contract out work to multiple private operators. We've seen that with the situation in the ESB, and therefore it would be important that the water workers defend and build up their industrial strength in order to guard against that contracting out situation. Nor is it ruled out that a state-owned company, a semi-state company, could go against the interests of the Irish people in this country and reintroduce water charges. We've seen how the ESB has gone against the interests of ordinary people by massively hiking up the price of gas and electricity, despite the fact that they made €679 million profit last year. We've seen how a bank in majority state ownership, in the form of Allied Irish banks, went against the interests of ordinary people by attempting mass closure of their branches at the start of the summer. And this points towards a couple of points. First of all, that whatever entity controls water services in this country is run by a board which is made up of elected representatives of the people who use the service and of the workers themselves. In other words, that there is democratic control and it genuinely represents the interests of ordinary people. The second point that is relevant here is that people remember that it was the Fianna Fáil and the Fine Gael parties which the Fine Gael party along with Labour introduced the water charges and their government had the backing of Fianna Fáil on the broad issues as well. People will do well to remember that and put those parties outside the door next time around. But also, people would be well to remember that it was a mass movement of people power on the streets and mass non-payment which defeated the water charges. We've done it once, and if we have to do it again, we will do that too. Now, I also want to comment briefly on the framework document that was issued on the 25th of June this year, a document which makes provision for local authority workers to be transferred over from the local authorities to Uisce Éireann on the 1st of January. This document has been put in place in spite of a service level agreement between the local authorities and Irish Water that it was due to run up to 2026. But despite this, the group of unions signed up to the framework document. Now, I would say it is an understatement. In fact, I would say it is a major understatement to say that there is discontent among water workers nationwide that their unions took this position. I would say that the decision was made by the group of unions without reference to the workers themselves. And I think the workers are advancing the demand that they should have the right to ballot on this, that they must have the right to balance on this, that no changes of this scale and importance should be rammed through, that it cannot happen without the consent of the workers themselves. And I agree with their position on this. I agree with their position on this 100%, and I will watch with great interest as to whether democracy is served here at the end of the day and a ballot is put in place by the respective unions on this crucial and vital issue for water workers and for society. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.